So in college, my lapse of judgment was pretty flawed. Um, I was very oblivious to a lot of things in college. And maybe that was me like trying to believe that there was some good going on or that it wasn't all just bad. But see, when I first went to college, um going out of college, I had been single for about a year and a half. See, I was looking to like meet someone, and being in college, having a dorm room all to yourself and not having like parents to supervise or the fear of someone walking in on you. Like I had a whole dorm room to myself. Like it's perfect. It's prime territory to like, meet someone. So, I'm going through college. It's maybe like the first month or two of classes. Like I just start getting into college and getting to my classes. And I'm walking into my math class, which at the time was just math 101, nothing crazy. Um, and I've never been one to like sit up front of the class. Like I like to kind of hide in the back corner where like the professor won't see me, so they won't like call on me, and so I can like laze off and do nothing the entire class. Um, so I kind of hide back there. And the way that this classroom was set up, it was a bunch of like tables, and there were like five chairs to a table, and it was almost like a seminar I don't know. It was a weird setup. It wasn't a full classroom. This was a TA who was actually teaching the class. But regardless, I sat all the way in the corner, hiding from everyone because I didn't want anything to do with these people. And so, I a lot of the other groups, sorry, like they were friends. They knew each other, or they made quick friends. A lot of the tables were already full, so I sat at basically this table by myself. Um, and I think one of the person came to sit next to me was some frat guy who was trying to recruit me to his his fraternity, which I'm sorry, dog, but I am the least frat boy you could ever meet. At the time, I didn't drink anything. I didn't do any drugs. I did not like to party. I just wanted to sit inside and play video games all day. So, he kind of just like did his own thing and didn't really care because there's also nowhere else to sit. Um, And so, we're about a week into this class, learning stuff. And the class isn't hard by any means. It was math 101. And genuinely, I think it was like junior high level math. Like, it was very, very simple, like fractions and multiplication. And like, it was abysmal. But after about a week, a new girl comes to down at the table. And I'm like, I mean, whatever, new student. I hadn't seen her in the class before, but it's not like I was really paying attention. So this girl comes, sits down, doesn't really say anything, kinda, says, "Hi, can I sit here?" Yeah, whatever, Sits down, doesn't really say much for a week, kinda just, like, sits there, um, and then occasionally starts asking help for help on, like, homework and such, um, starts to figure out, like, "Hey, can you help me with my homework?" Which the fact that she needed help probably should have been a sign to stop talking to her, but, I was just trying to be helpful, I wanted to be nice to her. Maybe she didn't, like, have the time to care, whatever, but so, started asking for help on homework questions, help her out, sort of spark up some small conversation about, things we like and whatever, and occasionally, we're on, like, a, "Hey, how's it going? Good morning," "How you doing today?" Kinda basis, and this goes on for maybe, like 3 weeks of just this little, like, small talk kinda buddy-buddy thing. And, I'm getting used to college and doing all that stuff, and then she asked me, she was like, "Hey, um, I need, help with this homework. Would you" we had a test coming up, actually. And she was like, "Hey, do you wanna, like, study for this test?" I'm like, "I mean, sure." I had other plans, and at that moment, I had, like, plans to go to a concert because there was a concert on campus, and I had a few friends of mine who wanted to go to the concert. So I'm like, "Oh, we can go after, go study whatever at the library or something." She was like, "Yeah, sure." Um, but then she was she was like, "Hey, can I like maybe go with you to the concert?" And I'm like, I guess. Let me ask my friends I'm going with real quick." And I asked them, they're like, "Yeah, whatever." So fast forward to later that night, I meet up with her to the concert, and the concert wasn't anything crazy. I mean, I think it was like a rock band. The lead singer also played the harmonica. It was a very weird concert, but me and this girl, we roll up to the friend group. They have like a little blanket and a little spot to sit down. Um, and these guys that I was friends with were my esports people. Basically, I met them through esports. They were my team, and we talked a lot about like video games. She didn't really chime in much because she didn't play video games. Every now and then she'd have a little thing to say, but then the topic of you know being gay came up because one of the guys was like gay, and I'm just like telling about how his dating troubles and trying to find a guy in this little small college town. And this girl, I mean, she starts trying to set up this guy with her gay best friend. And on one hand, I get it, trying to like set up someone, help him out. But you could tell that my friend was so uninterested. And I really do think that he, to this day, despises her. I don't think he liked her at all. Um, but I mean, I had to apologize profusely because of how annoying and how persistent this girl was being to my friend about trying to date her gay best friend and how perfect they would be. Um, and looking back on it, I can't help but cringe because you could, the tension was just so not there. You could tell that he did not have any interest in looking and dating some random girl's gay best friend. So this goes on for maybe like 30 minutes, and at some point I'm just like, okay, we're gonna go study now because the concert was almost over, and you know I wanted to go study for this math test. And so we head out, and I'm like, "Do you want to go to the library?" And she was like, "Well, the library's closed," which it was. I think you could still get in there for students to like a little small study area, but it was basically closed. And so she was like, "Well, if you wouldn't mind, we can go to your dorm room." Or me being me, I'm like, "Yeah, sure, why not?" I have a big bed. I pushed the two twin size mattresses together and made the one king size mattress. So, I was like, "Yeah, sure, we can go to my dorm room, whatever." Um, and I didn't realize she didn't have a backpack or a laptop or anything with her. But I guess I just like didn't question it. I was like, "Oh, it makes more sense to just study off of one computer." So we go to my dorm room. Talk along the way about the concert and all just other math homework stuff. And we go and we sit down on my bed because like this whole place could really sit down in my dorm room. I pull out my laptop and I start doing the math homework. And I don't remember her face, but she was definitely like, "There's no way." Um, and like I keep trying to study, and she keeps getting like closer. She's like, "Hey, we should put on a movie," or "Hey, we should put on some music," or something like that. And I don't think I've ever not realized someone flirting with me so hard in my entire life. Like, I was just ready to like have someone to study for this math test with. Like, I was like, "Yeah, let's both ace this thing." And it gets to a point where she's just fed up, and she just like closes my laptop and looks at me, and she was like, "I'm not here to do homework." And I was like, "What? What do you mean? Why would you why would you not? We have a test tomorrow." She was like, "Well, I had something else in mind." And at that moment, it all clicked in my brain finally. I understood why she wanted to quote unquote do math homework in my dorm room. And so eventually I did, I understood the assignment. I figured it out. And so, I start, we start getting intimate and things proceed. And yeah, the night happens. The next morning, go to class, math tests. This girl fails. I don't know how, but somehow she did fail. But this kind of cycle of like coming over to quote unquote study and hang out repeats for a few weeks. And then we become kind of like a friends with benefits kind of thing. And apparently, this girl, you know, would just like do this. And apparently she was really known for doing this, but of course I didn't know. Like I'm just a little guy and I was like, "Ooh, attention to my girl. Yeah, I'll come on over. Yeah, for sure. Let's hang out." Um but later I found out my friends knew about this and could not believe that I was one of the guys that she was with. But basically we keep going through this, start talking, and me being me, I thought it was an exclusive thing. She did not think it was exclusive. Um, After I found out, about like 3 months in that she was with 5 other guys, um, which was a shocker personally. And so after hearing that, I kind of like started to distance myself, and she starts to like kind of get crazier and crazier, and like try to keep me, from like backing off. And eventually, she does like kind of back off a little bit, do her own thing. And so I kind of like stopped seeing her, because like personally, I don't want to be with someone who is with several other guys at the same time as me. It's just like I don't really care that much, and I'm not trying to get crazy like that. So about a month and a half passes, and I get a random message from this girl, right? And through this whole exchange, we still like occasionally talk because we're still in the same math class, but I kind of just was like, yeah, I'm busy, can't come over or whatever. And so we'd still, exchange. And she's like, yeah, so I got some bad news. I'm like, what's the bad news? She's like, I got an STD, or I think I have an STD. And let me tell you, I have never had like the biggest smirk on my face ever until that moment, because like I was just like, karma. That's what you get for fucking sleeping around. But whatever. In the moment I was concerned, like, oh, how'd that happen? And turns out one of the guys she was seeing had slipped around at a sorority and had gotten, I don't know, I can't remember exactly what, but had gotten something. And now she has to go get tested. And so for about like 2 weeks, this girl's waiting to get tested. She goes in, and I'm kind of like laughing hysterically, telling all my friends about this. And in hindsight, like I probably shouldn't have been telling people's business, but like I was a little salty that like I wasn't, exclusive. So like, because this girl was really attractive, right? She was definitely my type, goth alt kind of style, really short, very outgoing, very persistent, like kind of does her own thing. And I was like, yeah, dude. But when I found out that I was just another destination on the map, I kind of a little salty. But she goes to the doctor and she gets tested and it comes back negative. She didn't have one. But after that, right after she comes back negative, she messaged me and she's like, I think I'm done sleeping around with people. And I'm like, probably for the best, you almost got something that is irreversible. So maybe we be more careful. Um, and so she like cuts off all these guys. And then for a while, cause I don't know if you are familiar with this app, but it's called Yik Yak, and it was like an anonymous chatting site where you could just like make a post to the public, and everyone in a certain area can see the post. And she was apparently very popular on there, and everyone was like, there's an uproar between all the guys that she had a thing with, who were all pissed and like were pointing out that it was her without saying it was her. Um, but she did drop all these guys, and kind of lays low for about a week or two. And I mean, whatever. Like, thank the Lord that I stopped seeing her because I didn't want none of that. But like after she kind of like stopped being AWOL, she messaged me and she's like, "Hey, so I'm thinking about like trying to settle down with someone, and I wanted it to be you." Excuse me? What? What did you say? Like, I was so baffled that you, with all these guys, have an STD scare. I almost contract the disease, and then say you're going to basically be celibate, but then ask me to be exclusive with you. I was just in shock, really. I could not believe what this girl was going through her head, if I'm being honest. Um, and I'm like, no, no, I really don't want any of that. And like as hot as she was, the more and more I talked to her, the more and more I realized that like the red flags were adding up. Like this girl was not the brightest. See, like there's one time at the dining hall. She went to the dining hall and was looking for a meal and was looking for like some alternative options. And so she goes to the vegetarian like side and looks at the vegetarian thing. And they had it's like a cashew casserole or something that had cashews in it. Takes a bite, takes a portion and eats it. This girl is allergic to tree nuts. And for those who aren't aware, cashews are a tree nut. And you can only imagine what happens when she ate the cashew casserole. She had to go to the hospital for an allergic reaction. And then not to mention, almost failing Math 101, which the course curriculum was like fractions, statistics, geometry, like nothing overly complex. It was extremely basic. This girl almost failed this. And it's not to say that like, she was stupid, but like either she didn't care to try or she really just could not put one and two together. Also, the amount of my friends that knew her, and after the fact when I told her, because I called her Crazy Math Girl because I knew she was crazy. I mean, I was all for that, but I called her Crazy Math Girl, and all my friends only knew her as Crazy Math Girl for me telling about them. When they found out who exactly Crazy Math Girl was, they could not believe that one, I pulled her because, well, I'm gonna be real, I'm not much of a looker. I'm kind of just an average Joe, a background character. So all my friends were first off baffled that she would talk to me, but two, they couldn't believe that like I would even go near her because of just her reputation. And she was the same grade as me too, so she had only been there for like 3 months. And the fact that she already had that much of a reputation, I mean, I should have listened to my friends here. But I was blinded by lust, so, not thinking of the right head. But she asked me, and I'm like, no, I don't want to date you. You're crazy. I don't, and I didn't say that, but like, I don't want anything you have or may have gotten. And besides, I don't know if you'd be like loyal because, you slept around and all this. And so she kind of like persists and keeps going and keeps bugging me for weeks and weeks and weeks. It got so bad to the point where I had to start blocking her on things, and like my friends had to start telling her that I wasn't available because she would go to my friends to find out where I am. I think at one point she even downloaded Discord so that she could add me on Discord to see my Discord status to see if I was on playing games. Like it was absurd what this girl was doing. Don't get me wrong, in the moment, I was like, this is awesome. I love a stalker baddie. But I also did not want a stalker baddie with an STD. So, but she stalks me and goes crazy. And genuinely, it took 3 months for her to stop finally respond, like trying to go after me and like get with me to be whatever. Because like out of all the guys that she was with, like I was probably the safest option because I didn't party, I didn't go out, I was least likely to cheat. I'd been single for so long, so I was just happy to have the attention of a woman. So like, I guess in her head, I was the most like likely option to just like still have someone, but I didn't want none of that. I didn't want any part of that. So I, brushed her off, and I haven't heard from her since. Thank the Lord. As pretty and as hot as she was, I am very glad that I dodged that bullet. The amount of red flags that I ignored initially, um, honestly, made me realize that I need better taste in women because of how crazy she ended up being. And the stories just kept on coming. The amount of people that once they made a connection between who Crazy Math Girl was from my stories and who they knew her as, like, it was absurd. And she ended up straightening up. I think she actually got straightened up around junior year of college. But man, needless to say, I am much more cautious when talking to women now because of this interaction. As much fun as getting freaky is, I much rather it being just a one-on-one thing and not a one-on-one kind of situation. So, but yeah. So, if you're in college and a girl way out of your league comes up and talks to you, just assume she's got 30 other guys, um, because he probably does. And remember, always to wrap it before you tap it. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, yeah.